This is the ECOFLOW WAVE 3, a portable air conditioner and heater that kept my small spaces genuinely comfortable without a wall outlet, and did it for long enough that I stopped thinking about extension cords and generators. I would place it in that portable climate control category that bridges camping gear and real home use. It fits people like me who move between a camper, a small apartment bedroom, a garage workspace, or a van, and want real cooling and heating without committing to a window unit or a heavy home appliance. I rely on it most for outdoor trips, overnight van parking, and as a backup when the power flickers during heat waves. The design matters here because it has to travel and it has to blend in. The shape is a clean, compact rectangle that feels modern. It is a little boxy, but in a good way, because the flat sides make it easier to wedge into corners or against cabinets. The shell feels solid, not thin or rattly. With the battery attached underneath, it still looks like one tidy unit instead of a stacked experiment. The weight with the battery is around 60 pounds. That is manageable for me when I am on flat ground, but I would not carry it up a long staircase by myself. The ports and controls sit up front and on top where I actually reach them. The display plainly shows temperature, battery percentage, and how long I can run at the current settings. The physical buttons are big enough to jab without looking. There is a simple drain plug for condensation, and I appreciate that it is not hidden. The hose connectors are obvious and sturdy, which sounds small, but it matters when I am wrangling window panels at night. There is also a universal serial bus type A and a universal serial bus type C port on the front. I use them for a phone and a camera battery, and it is one less power brick to think about. Setup is exactly what a portable air conditioner asks of me. I connect an intake hose and an exhaust hose to a window or a vent. That is the trade-off for efficient cooling. It pulls in outside air for the condenser and sends the heat back out, which prevents that weird vacuum effect that I have seen with single hose units. The first time took me a few minutes of fiddling while I learned which window panel fit my camper versus my bedroom. After that, it became routine. I can set it up in a couple of minutes, even in low light. The add on lithium iron phosphate battery clicks in underneath. I plug the cable and it is ready to go. I have also run it from wall power and from a 12-volt car adapter, and I tried solar panels with a power station on one trip. The flexibility is what makes it feel portable in practice, not just in advertising. The user experience is straightforward. I like simple controls and I get them here. I press power, pick cooling, heating, or dehumidifying, adjust the temperature, and set fan speed. The display shows time remaining on battery, which is the one readout I check constantly. When I am tucked in bed or busy outside, I use the ECOFLOW application over Bluetooth or wireless internet to toggle modes and set a timer. The application is basic in the right way. It connects quickly and it does not bury essential controls in menus. Responsiveness on the unit itself is instant. Tap the buttons and it reacts right away. On performance, the numbers matter because they explain why it does not feel weak. The ECOFLOW WAVE 3 delivers around 6,100 British thermal units for cooling and around 6,800 British thermal units for heating. In my camper, which is just over 120 square feet, I can feel the temperature drop noticeably within about 15 to 25 minutes on normal air conditioner mode, even in late afternoon sun. In my apartment bedroom, which is larger, I still feel fast relief if I set it to a higher fan speed and aim the vents properly. The dual hose approach is a big part of this. The room does not feel starved for air, and I am not fighting a draft under the door. Battery life is where my expectations changed. With the lithium iron phosphate battery attached, I get different runtimes based on how aggressive I am. On eco or fan modes, I have stretched it close to 8 hours. On regular cooling, I usually land around 4 hours before I want to recharge. If I push it on maximum cooling on a hot day, 2 to 3 hours is a realistic range. That lines up with how it feels in the real world. When I need a quick cool down, I blast it for 15 minutes, then drop to a calmer setting to extend the battery. Recharging is quick for a pack this size. Using fast charging, I have seen it go from low to full in roughly 75 minutes. That turnaround has saved a few trips when I plugged in during lunch and had chilled air again for the evening drive. Noise is another piece I paid attention to. In eco mode or fan only, it hums like a box fan and I can sleep with it a few feet away. When I switch to maximum cooling, it is louder. My phone meter shows somewhere around the mid-50 to 60 decibel range, depending on distance and surface reflections. That is about the level of a normal conversation in the next room. It is not unbearable, but if I am sensitive to noise, I plan my cooling boost earlier and then let it cruise on a quieter setting overnight. Heating is a nice surprise. I tested it on a mountain morning that sat in the low 50s Fahrenheit inside the camper. Setting it to heat raised the temperature to a comfortable level in about 20 minutes and kept it there without a constant roar. I would not rely on it to warm a big living room, but for a van, a small office, or a bedroom, it is useful. Condensation management is simple. When cooling or dehumidifying, water collects inside. I get a warning indicator when it is time to drain, and popping the plug takes a minute. In humid weather, I plan to empty it more often. Maintenance has been easy. I wipe dust off the intake grills and make sure the hoses are clear. Nothing about it has felt fragile. My real-world tests included 3 main situations. The first was a weekend in a camper at a crowded site with limited shore power. I ran the unit off the battery as the sun set, cooled the interior quickly, and then switched to eco mode to sleep. I woke up to battery left. I topped up while I made breakfast and ran it as a dehumidifier during a light rain. The second was a bedroom in a small apartment during a brief afternoon outage. I used the battery to keep the room bearable, and I loved having the temperature and remaining time on the display because it let me manage my expectations instead of guessing. The third was a larger 200 square foot lounge where I wanted some relief while working on a project. On battery power, it dropped the temperature by about 3 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit in roughly an hour, which made the space workable, but it did not turn it into a refrigerator. For bigger rooms, I treat it as a spot cooler and position the vents where I sit. A specific use case that keeps coming up for me is an overnight van stop in warm weather. I arrive in the late afternoon, set the 2 hoses to a window insert, and run maximum cooling for 10 to 15 minutes while I organize. The space comes down to a comfortable level quickly. Then I switch to eco mode and set a timer in the ECOFLOW application so it trims the fan speed after the first hour. I fall asleep with a consistent hum, not a blast. In the morning, if it is chilly, I flip to heating while I make coffee, and it takes the edge off the cold before I step outside. No cords, no generator rumble, and I keep my phone and camera batteries topped up from the universal serial bus ports on the front. There are smart touches that actually help. The battery percentage and estimated remaining time are front and center, which helps me decide whether to keep cooling or to switch to a lighter mode. The wireless control through the application means I can adjust settings from a sleeping bag or from the kitchen. The ability to recharge quickly or to top up from a 12-volt carport or from solar gear widens the range of trips I consider. The dual hose design avoids that negative pressure feeling and makes cooling faster. None of this feels like a gimmick. It just makes the whole setup easier to live with. It is not perfect. The weight is real if I carry it solo upstairs. The hoses take some patience, and if a window is awkward, I need to get creative with sealing. On maximum cooling it will be heard, so I plan for that. And while it handles small to medium spaces well, I treat larger rooms as a partial solution, not an instant deep freeze. Even with those caveats, it has replaced a couple of other portable units that were either too weak, too loud, or too power-hungry for me to keep. I would recommend the ECOFLOW WAVE 3 to people who want true mobility without giving up meaningful cooling and heating. It is a solid fit for campers, van life, small recreational vehicles, backyard workshops, and as a backup for bedrooms during outages. If easy setup, flexible power options, and honest, usable performance matter, it delivers. If I need to cool a big open living room or if I want silent operation at full blast, I would look at a different approach. For the use cases I described, it has been reliable, straightforward, and genuinely helpful. I will share detailed information about the ECOFLOW WAVE 3 in the comments section. Everyone, Thank you for watching.